The Druzhba pipeline is among the largest of its kind in the world, supplying a number of European countries. Now, a leak has been detected on a Russian pipeline delivering crude oil supplies to Europe. The affected pipe was part of the network connected to Germany and was immediately shut off, whilst a second pipe on the line is still operating. Officials say that although the cause is still unknown, no foul play is suspected.
6 Russian gunships cut through the fog, unloading S-8 rockets at what they thought was a Ukrainian recon team. But the real target wasn't a squad of soldiers. It was Russia's $3.2 billion oil lifeline, a pipeline carrying fuel straight into Moscow.
The new leak comes after 2 underwater Russian gas pipelines to Europe began venting following a series of suspicious blasts last month. Germany said Wednesday that despite the reduced flow of oil, it has enough stored supplies. According to Polish authorities, the leak was found on the Druzhba pipeline in southwestern Poland on Tuesday.
Within hours, that artery would be choking in flames, and Russia would learn how deception and precision could cripple what brute force never could. So how did Ukraine pull off one of the boldest strikes of the war without triggering a full-scale clash? Stick around because this attack rewrote the rules of modern combat. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. Pipelines are supposed to be the kind of targets nobody can touch. Buried under earth, reinforced in steel, guarded by layers of sensors, and designed to keep fuel flowing without pause. For decades, they've been treated more like permanent infrastructure than battlefield assets. But in the middle of the Ukraine war, that assumption collapsed. The Tula-Moscow oil pipeline, costing over $3 billion to build, was transformed overnight from a hidden steel spine into a strike zone. The reason it mattered was simple. This pipeline wasn't just feeding refineries, it was feeding Russia's war effort.
The president warns Russia is preparing for a decisive energy attack on all Europeans when the temperatures drop. Moscow keeping the taps to a key pipeline to Germany turned off, leaving Europe at risk of gas shortages this winter. Russia's energy company didn't restart the flow of gas through the Nord Stream 1 pipeline on Saturday as planned, citing an oil leak. Analysts said Wood Mackenzie, an energy research firm, told City News in an email that should flows not resume, an extremely cold winter in Europe could lead to strict energy rationing. It's believed the move is potential retaliation for supporting Ukraine.
Diesel and aviation fuel drawn from it went directly into the logistics chain that kept tanks rolling and jets flying. Without that constant stream, battalions at the front had to rely on convoys snaking across hundreds of miles, exposed and vulnerable. Moscow knew it, which is why the line was guarded as if it were a fortress. Yet all of that protection failed in the most unexpected way. The defenses around this corridor were intimidating on paper. Attack helicopters like the Ka-52 Alligator prowled overhead, scanning with thermal optics powerful enough to pick out a man hiding in a tree line. Radar screens tied into S-400 batteries stretched a detection net across the region, capable of hitting targets above the clouds. Mobile units of electronic warfare trucks patrolled roads, broadcasting jamming signals to blind incoming drones. Soldiers operated tiny counter-drone guns, firing pulses to knock small aircraft out of the sky. In theory, it was layered enough to defeat anything coming near. But theory and practice split apart that night. As searchlights whipped through the mist and operators sat locked on their sensors, the one thing none of them expected was an attack coming from somewhere they weren't even looking. The opening move used deception, loud and obvious. Small quadcopters and fixed-wing drones buzzed across radar coverage, beaming out signatures far larger than their real size. To Russian screens, they looked like squadrons of incoming threats. Operators punched alarms, helicopter crews scrambled, and air defense batteries spun into place. Watching the skies light up, observers would have thought a major strike on radar stations was imminent. Except those blips were never meant to hit anything. They were distractions, meant to tug defenses up and away from the ground. Below the noise, the actual strike was in motion. Engineers had been testing robotic crawlers no larger than a suitcase, able to slip through existing service tunnels used for maintenance. Those machines move slow, their quiet motors hidden under soil. Instead of carrying explosives designed to detonate on impact, they carried shaped charges programmed to sleep once buried. They were placed at bends in the pipeline, where stress on the welded steel was greatest and repairs most difficult. Hitting at those points was like striking a joint in armor. One precise blow made everything weaker. The decision wasn't random. Maintenance crews had reinforced those bends, which drew attention to them in the first place. Ukrainian planners knew Russian repair teams would need days, maybe weeks, to cut out and replace the damaged sections after a hit. On the Russian side, the deception worked perfectly. Radars painted the sky with phantom swarms while artillery batteries fired into empty air. Drone gun operators, scanning with infrared scopes, tried to pick out tiny silhouettes against the horizon, never realizing the real mission was unfolding underneath them. Soldiers with spotlights swept the tree lines, calling out chatter like there was a ground assault pushing forward. Every resource pivoted upward, eyes hunting shapes above the horizon, while the pipeline beneath, with all its armored shell and reinforced welds, was already compromised. That tension hung in the air for hours. Russian Air Force officers kept repositioning assets, demanding confirmation of what they thought was a wave of drones massing above the forests. Helicopter pilots burned fuel circling targets that didn't exist. By the time those robotic crawlers finished their task, the sleeping mines were already buried deep and linked to their triggers. Every step of the feint had kept Russian focus on the wrong theater. The defenders never detected the real strike, and the first explosions unfolded inside the very artery Moscow believed no one could touch. That night proved what sophisticated radars and gunships couldn't admit. Distraction and patience beat raw firepower. With decoys buzzing above and robotics moving below, Ukraine cracked open a system designed to appear invulnerable. And as the charges cooled in the soil, waiting for the moment to rip through 30 inches of welded pipe, chaos began to spread. Russia's defenses were already collapsing into confusion, and what followed next was a fireball that lit the sky for miles. The attack on the pipeline showed that brute firepower is not the deciding factor in modern war. Precision tools, deceptive tactics, and patience can dismantle billion-dollar infrastructure with a fraction of the cost. Ukraine's approach turned defenses built to stop jets and missiles into blind guardians chasing shadows. Think about what this means outside the battlefield. Pipelines, power plants, communication lines, all engineered to seem permanent, are now targets for tools that cost less than a car. If drones and robots can silence a fuel artery outside Moscow, who can say which strategic networks around the world are truly secure?